Most people don't wake up one day and decide to stay stuck. It happens quietly, slowly, almost invisibly. At first, life feels like it's simply on pause. You tell yourself you'll figure things out soon, that this phase will pass, that when the right moment comes, you'll move forward. But the right moment never announces itself. Days repeat, weeks blur together, years pass, and without realizing it, the pause becomes permanent. This is how people stay stuck, not through failure, but through familiarity. The most dangerous trap in life is not discomfort. It is comfort that slowly drains your potential. The human brain is wired to seek safety, not growth. It prefers what is known over what is possible. Even when the known is painful, boring, or unfulfilling, it feels predictable, and predictability feels safe. This is why people stay in situations that no longer serve them. They choose familiar pain over unfamiliar growth. Being stuck doesn't always look like suffering. Sometimes it looks like routine, a stable job that drains you, a relationship that no longer inspires you, a lifestyle that keeps you busy but not fulfilled. Because when pain becomes routine, it stops feeling urgent. And when there is no urgency, there is no movement. One of the biggest illusions that keeps people stuck is the belief that clarity comes before action. Many people say, once I figure things out, I'll start. But clarity does not come from thinking alone. It comes from movement. You don't wait to see the whole path before taking the first step. You see the path because you took the step. Those who wait for certainty end up waiting forever. Another silent reason people stay stuck is because they mistake busyness for progress. They fill their days with activity, scrolling, consuming content, talking about goals, planning endlessly, but none of it changes their direction. Movement without intention is just motion. It looks productive from the outside, but inside, nothing is changing. True progress often feels slow and uncomfortable, which is why many avoid it. Fear plays a powerful role here, but not in the way most people think. It's not the fear of failure that keeps people stuck. It's the fear of identity loss. Growth requires becoming someone new, and that means letting go of who you used to be. The familiar version of yourself, even if unhappy, feels safe because it is known. Change threatens that identity, so the mind resists. Many people also stay stuck because they live too much in their past or future and rarely in the present. The past creates regret. The future creates anxiety. And between regret and anxiety, action disappears. The present moment, the only place where change can actually happen, gets ignored. When you are constantly replaying what went wrong or worrying about what could go wrong, you never fully engage with what is happening now. Another powerful trap is overthinking. Overthinking feels intelligent. It feels responsible. But most of the time, it is just fear disguised as analysis. People overthink not because they are deep thinkers, but because they are afraid to choose. Every option is examined, every risk magnified, every mistake imagined. Eventually, the mind becomes tired, and doing nothing feels like relief. Over time, inaction becomes a habit. Environment also plays a larger role than most people realize. Your thoughts are shaped by what surrounds you, the conversations you hear, the content you consume, the expectations placed on you. When your environment rewards comfort and discourages risk, staying stuck feels normal. Growth often requires changing what you listen to, what you watch, and who you spend time with, not out of arrogance, but out of self-preservation. Another reason people stay stuck is because they outsource responsibility. They blame timing, circumstances, society, or luck. While many external factors are real, focusing only on them removes your power. Responsibility is not about blaming yourself. It is about recognizing where you still have influence. Even when you can't control outcomes, you can control effort, direction, and persistence. Many people also carry limiting beliefs they never question. This is just how I am. I'm not built for that. People like me don't succeed. These beliefs are not facts. They are conclusions formed from past experiences. But the past is not a rule book for the future. The moment you mistake a story for a truth, you stop growing. Comfort with mediocrity is another quiet danger. Not everyone wants greatness, and that's okay. But many people settle not because they are content, but because they are afraid to want more. Wanting more requires admitting that your current life is not enough for you. That admission alone feels risky. So instead, people lower their desires to match their comfort. One of the most overlooked reasons people stay stuck is emotional exhaustion. When life feels heavy for too long, the mind stops believing change is possible. Hope fades quietly. Effort feels pointless. This is why rest is important, not escape, but real rest. Growth does not come from burnout. It comes from clarity, and clarity requires mental space. People also stay stuck because they expect transformation to be dramatic. They imagine sudden breakthroughs, massive motivation, or overnight change. But real transformation is quiet. It happens through small decisions repeated consistently. Reading instead of scrolling, acting despite doubt, choosing discipline over comfort. These changes don't feel powerful in the moment, but they compound over time. Another truth is that staying stuck is often rewarded socially. When you don't change, you remain predictable. You don't threaten others. Growth can make people uncomfortable because it reflects their own stagnation. So sometimes, people are subtly discouraged from changing not out of malice, but out of shared comfort. It takes courage to grow when staying the same keeps everyone else comfortable. The hardest part of leaving a stuck life is not starting. It's enduring the early phase where nothing seems to change. When you start moving forward, results are invisible at first. Progress happens internally before it shows externally. This is where most people quit. They mistake silence for failure. But silence is often the sign that roots are growing. Awareness is the turning point. The moment you realize you are stuck, you are no longer fully stuck. Awareness creates distance between you and your patterns. It gives you choice. You may not change everything immediately, but you are no longer trapped unconsciously. And unconscious traps are the strongest ones. Moving forward does not require confidence. Confidence comes later. It requires willingness. Willingness to be uncomfortable. Willingness to fail quietly. Willingness to look foolish while learning. Those who escape stagnation are not braver than others. They are simply more willing to act without guarantees. Life does not change when you wait for the perfect version of yourself to appear. It changes when you act as the person you want to become, even before you feel ready. Identity follows behavior, not the other way around. Most people stay stuck forever because they never interrupt the pattern. They keep waiting for life to change instead of choosing to change how they live. But the moment you make even a small intentional shift, the pattern weakens. And once a pattern weakens, a new one can form. The truth is, staying stuck is easy. Growth is demanding. But growth gives something stagnation never can: self-respect. And self-respect changes how you walk through the world. It changes what you tolerate. It changes what you believe is possible. If you are listening to this, you are not stuck forever. You are simply at a point of awareness. And awareness is the beginning of movement. Not loud movement. Not dramatic movement. Quiet, steady movement. And that is how real change begins. Staying stuck is not always about what you do wrong. Often, it is about what you never question. Most people live on mental autopilot. They wake up, follow routines that were never consciously chosen, react to life instead of directing it, and repeat the same patterns because those patterns feel familiar. Familiarity creates a false sense of security. The mind says, "At least I know this," and knowing feels safer than uncertainty, even when uncertainty holds growth. One of the most subtle reasons people remain stuck is because they confuse understanding with transformation. They consume books, videos, and advice. They nod their head and say, "That makes sense." But understanding something intellectually does not change behavior. Transformation only happens when knowledge turns into action. Many people feel productive simply by learning. But learning without application becomes another form of comfort. Another reason people stay stuck is because they underestimate how deeply habits shape identity. Habits are not just actions. They are votes for the type of person you believe you are. Every time you avoid something difficult, you reinforce the identity of avoidance. Every time you delay action, you strengthen the habit of delay. Over time, these small choices solidify into a self-image that feels difficult to escape. People don't just stay stuck in circumstances. They stay stuck in identities. Asterisk, there is also a silent emotional attachment to being stuck. For some, being stuck becomes a story that explains why life hasn't worked out. That story may bring sympathy, understanding, or relief from responsibility. Letting go of that story means stepping into uncertainty without excuses. And for many, that feels terrifying. Growth removes familiar explanations. Many people remain stuck because they believe change must be extreme to be meaningful. They think they need to change everything at once: their job, their lifestyle, their habits, their mindset. This belief overwhelms them before they begin. In reality, lasting change rarely comes from massive action. It comes from consistent, small adjustments made over time. But because small steps feel insignificant, they are often ignored. Asterisk, another powerful force that keeps people stuck is emotional attachment to comfort zones. Disguised as realism, people say things like, "I'm just being realistic," when what they mean is, "I'm afraid of disappointment." Realism becomes a shield against risk, but realism without vision turns into limitation. Growth requires imagination first, not certainty. Asterisk, many people also remain stuck because they never learn how to sit with discomfort. The moment something feels challenging, boring, or uncertain, they seek distraction. Phones, entertainment, noise. Constant stimulation trains the brain to avoid difficulty instead of working through it. Over time, tolerance for effort decreases. When effort feels unbearable, stagnation becomes the default. Asterisk, another hidden reason people stay stuck is because they mistake peace for avoidance. There's a difference between choosing peace and avoiding growth. True peace comes from alignment. Avoidance comes from fear. If peace always requires you to shrink, stay silent about your needs, or settle for less, it may not be peace at all. It may be comfort disguised as calm. Asterisk, people also stay stuck because they expect permission. Permission from family, from society, from circumstances, from the right time. But no one announces when it's your turn to grow. No one hands you confidence. Permission is something you give yourself, and many people never do. Asterisk, another layer of stagnation comes from unresolved emotional weight. Past failures, disappointments, and regrets quietly shape decisions. When emotional wounds are ignored, they influence behavior unconsciously. People avoid situations that remind them of past pain, even if those situations hold opportunity. Healing is not optional for growth. It is part of the process. Asterisk, many people stay stuck because they are afraid of being seen trying. Trying publicly means risking judgment. Failing privately feels safer. So people stay in preparation mode forever, planning, researching, waiting. But life does not reward preparation alone. It rewards participation. Asterisk, comparison is another silent trap. When people constantly compare their beginning to someone else's middle, motivation collapses. Progress feels pointless. The mind says, "What's the use?" Comparison distorts reality and creates paralysis. Growth happens when attention turns inward, not outward. Asterisk, another reason people remain stuck is because they attach their self-worth to outcomes. When success feels uncertain, effort feels risky. But when self-worth depends on results, failure feels like personal rejection. To avoid that pain, people avoid trying altogether. Detaching self-worth from outcomes is essential for movement. Asterisk, there is also the illusion of time. People believe they have more time than they do. "I'll start next year. I'll change later." Time feels abundant until it suddenly doesn't. But awareness of time is often what triggers change. Those who move forward understand that delay has a cost, even if that cost is invisible today. Asterisk, people stay stuck because they don't realize that discipline is not punishment. It is freedom. Discipline removes decision fatigue. It creates structure. It builds momentum. But discipline is misunderstood as restriction, so it is avoided. In reality, lack of discipline creates chaos, and chaos creates stagnation. Asterisk, another powerful truth is that staying stuck is often a way to avoid responsibility for potential. If you never fully try, you never fully fail. And if you never fully fail, you never have to confront your limits. But potential unrealized becomes regret, and regret is heavier than failure. Asterisk growth also requires patience, something modern life discourages. Everything is fast, instant, and optimized for comfort. Real growth is slow. It tests commitment. It demands repetition. Those unwilling to tolerate slow progress often quit too early, mistaking patience for stagnation. Asterisk people also stay stuck because they confuse feelings with facts. Feeling unmotivated does not mean you are incapable. Feeling unsure does not mean you are wrong. Emotions are signals, not instructions. Learning to act despite feelings is one of the most important skills for progress. Asterisk another reason stagnation lasts is because people underestimate how much courage it takes to disappoint others. Growth often requires changing expectations, saying no, choosing differently, and disappointing others can feel worse than disappointing yourself. So people sacrifice their own direction to maintain harmony. Asterisk the truth is, most people stay stuck not because they lack ability, but because they lack sustained courage. Courage is not loud. It is quiet consistency. It is choosing discomfort again and again without applause. Asterisk leaving a stuck life does not feel heroic. It feels awkward, lonely, confusing. There is a period where the old life no longer fits, and the new life has not yet formed. This in-between space is uncomfortable, and many retreat back to familiarity. But this space is also where transformation happens. Asterisk the moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can I do differently?" the pattern begins to break. Progress does not require certainty. It requires commitment to movement. Asterisk most people stay stuck forever because they never make this internal shift. But the ones who don't, the ones who slowly change how they think, act, and respond, eventually look back and realize they were never trapped. They were simply waiting to choose themselves. Asterisk, and if you are listening to this, still present, still thinking, still reflecting, it means something within you is already shifting. Awareness grows quietly, and once awareness grows, staying stuck becomes harder than moving forward. Asterisk this is how change begins. Not with noise, not with motivation, but with honest awareness and small, deliberate action. Asterisk most people believe they are stuck because something is missing. More money, more confidence, more clarity, more time. But what actually keeps them stuck is not absence. It is accumulation. Too many thoughts, too many expectations, too many opinions, too many unexamined beliefs layered on top of each other until movement feels heavy. The mind becomes crowded, and when the mind is crowded, action feels impossible. Simplification is often the first step forward, but it is rarely chosen because it requires letting go. Asterisk letting go is uncomfortable because it feels like loss. Even when what you are holding onto no longer serves you, releasing it creates uncertainty. The mind prefers a known burden over an unknown freedom. This is why people cling to routines that drain them, identities that no longer fit, and beliefs that quietly limit them. Staying stuck becomes a way to avoid grief, the grief of who you thought you would be. Asterisk many people stay stuck because they never allow themselves to mourn the version of life they expected. Instead of accepting that certain paths have closed, they remain emotionally attached to them. They live halfway, neither fully committed to the present nor fully released from the past. This emotional limbo freezes movement. Acceptance is not giving up. It is freeing energy trapped in resistance. Asterisk another reason people remain stuck is because they confuse potential with obligation. They feel pressured to become everything they could be, all at once. This pressure becomes overwhelming. Instead of choosing one direction and committing to it, they stay still, fearing the wrong choice. But choosing nothing is also a choice, and often the most limiting one. Asterisk people also stay stuck because they believe they must feel confident before acting. But confidence is built through evidence, not imagination. Evidence comes from experience. Experience comes from action. When you wait to feel confident before you begin, you delay the very process that creates confidence. This creates a loop where fear feeds inaction, and inaction feeds fear. Asterisk there is also the fear of outgrowing people. Growth changes dynamics. When you evolve, not everyone can follow. Some relationships are built on shared limitations, not shared growth. The idea of being misunderstood, judged, or left behind keeps many people small. Staying stuck becomes a way to preserve connection. even if that connection costs personal expansion. Asterisk another subtle reason people remain stuck is because they measure progress incorrectly. They look for dramatic external changes, status, income, recognition while ignoring internal shifts. But internal shifts come first. A clearer mind, better boundaries, stronger discipline, increased self-respect. When these changes go unnoticed, people assume nothing is happening and quit too early. Asterisk people stay stuck because they don't trust slow progress. In a world obsessed with speed, slow improvement feels insignificant, but compounding is invisible at first. Just like erosion shapes mountains over time, small daily actions reshape identity. Those who understand this stay patient. Those who don't return to comfort. Asterisk another reason stagnation persists is emotional avoidance. Many people avoid growth because growth brings unresolved emotions to the surface. Silence brings thoughts. Stillness brings memories. Movement brings fear. Staying busy or distracted becomes a coping mechanism. But what you avoid controls you. What you face transforms you. Many people stay stuck because they believe their thoughts. Every doubt feels factual. Every fear feels predictive. But thoughts are interpretations, not truths. Learning to observe thoughts instead of obeying them is a major step toward freedom. The mind is a tool, not a master. Most people never learn this distinction. Asterisk another powerful trap is waiting for external validation. People want reassurance that they are on the right path, but validation rarely comes before results. It comes after. When you depend on approval to move forward, you give others control over your momentum. Growth often requires moving without applause. Asterisk people also remain stuck because they romanticize comfort. They associate safety with happiness. But comfort without purpose leads to emptiness. Purpose introduces challenge, and challenge introduces meaning. A meaningful life is rarely comfortable, but it is deeply fulfilling. Those who choose comfort over meaning eventually feel lost. Asterisk stagnation also thrives when people avoid responsibility for their inner world. They manage schedules, tasks, and appearances, but neglect thoughts, emotions, and habits. Internal disorder creates external stagnation. You cannot build a forward-moving life on an unmanaged inner state. Asterisk many people stay stuck because they do not know how to set boundaries. They say yes when they mean no. They tolerate what drains them. They avoid conflict at the cost of clarity. Over time, resentment builds, energy depletes, and movement stops. Boundaries are not walls. They are directions. Asterisk another reason people remain stuck is because they mistake comfort and knowledge for wisdom and action. Knowing what to do feels similar to doing it, but the results are different. Wisdom only appears through practice. Without practice, knowledge becomes intellectual decoration. Asterisk people stay stuck because they believe life should feel easier than it does. When effort feels heavy, they assume something is wrong. But effort is part of growth. Difficulty is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of engagement. Those who accept effort move forward. Those who resist it stay still. Asterisk there is also the quiet fear of success. Success changes expectations. It raises standards. It demands consistency. Failure ends quickly. Success continues. For some, staying stuck feels safer than sustaining growth. Asterisk another reason stagnation persists is because people do not allow themselves to start small. Ego wants transformation. Reality requires progression. Starting small feels unimpressive. But small beginnings build resilience. Resilience builds momentum. Momentum changes lives. Asterisk people also stay stuck because they don't reflect honestly. They avoid asking difficult questions. What am I avoiding? What pattern keeps repeating? What choice am I afraid to make? Without reflection, patterns remain invisible. And what remains invisible cannot be changed. Asterisk many people confuse identity with circumstance. They say, I am stuck, instead of, I am in a stuck situation. Language shapes perception. When stagnation becomes identity, escape feels impossible. When it becomes a temporary state, movement feels possible. Asterisk another reason people remain stuck is because they underestimate how powerful consistency is. They seek intensity instead. Intensity burns fast. Consistency builds quietly. Those who choose consistency over excitement eventually surpass those who chase motivation. Asterisk people stay stuck because they avoid responsibility for their future self. They live for immediate comfort instead of long-term respect. Future consequences feel distant, but time collapses faster than expected. Those who act with their future self in mind move forward steadily. Asterisk there is also the belief that it is too late. Age becomes an excuse. Past mistakes become anchors. But growth is not age-dependent. Awareness does not expire. Many people reinvent themselves later in life not because they had more time, but because they finally chose honesty over fear. Asterisk another reason people remain stuck is because they never redefine success for themselves. They chase borrowed goals. When those goals feel empty, motivation disappears. Clarity returns when success is defined internally, not socially. Asterisk staying stuck forever is not about lacking answers. It is about avoiding responsibility for choices. Life rarely blocks paths permanently, but it often waits for commitment. Asterisk those who move forward are not special. They are not fearless. They are simply tired of repeating the same year. They choose discomfort over regret. They choose progress over excuses. Quietly, imperfectly, consistently. Asterisk if you are listening to this, you are not behind. You are becoming aware. And awareness is the first real step forward. It shifts the question from why am I stuck to what am I willing to change. Asterisk at some point, staying stuck stops feeling painful and starts feeling normal. That is when it becomes most dangerous. When dissatisfaction no longer alarms you. When routine no longer bothers you. When dreams feel distant but not urgent. That is when life quietly slips into repetition. Most people don't realize this is happening because nothing is wrong enough to force change. Everything works just enough to keep them where they are. Asterisk one of the deepest reasons people stay stuck is because they avoid radical honesty with themselves. Radical honesty is uncomfortable. It requires admitting that some choices were wrong, that some years were wasted, that some relationships were kept out of fear rather than love, that some potential was ignored. But honesty is not about punishment. It is about clarity, and clarity is the beginning of freedom. Asterisk another hidden reason people remain stuck is because they believe effort should always feel meaningful. But in reality, much of growth feels boring. Repetition is boring. Discipline is boring. Showing up when nothing exciting happens is boring. The mind craves stimulation, not stability. And when growth lacks stimulation, people abandon it. But boredom is often a sign that real work is happening beneath the surface. Asterisk people also stay stuck because they confuse emotional comfort with inner peace. Emotional comfort avoids discomfort. Inner peace faces it and moves through it. When people say they want peace, they often mean they want fewer challenges. But challenges are not the enemy. Avoidance is. A life without challenge is not peaceful. It is stagnant. Asterisk another reason stagnation lasts is because people live reactively instead of intentionally. They respond to whatever appears in front of them: messages, demands, opinions, problems without choosing a direction first. When life is lived in reaction mode, progress becomes accidental instead of intentional. And accidental progress is unreliable. Asterisk many people stay stuck because they underestimate how much their self-talk shapes reality. The way you speak to yourself becomes the lens through which you interpret effort, failure, and possibility. If your inner voice constantly doubts, criticizes, or discourages, forward movement feels exhausting. Learning to speak to yourself with clarity instead of cruelty is not weakness. It is strategy. Asterisk another powerful factor is emotional dependency on outcomes. When happiness depends entirely on results, effort becomes frightening. But when effort itself becomes the goal, movement becomes sustainable. Those who move forward learn to detach effort from outcome. They focus on consistency, not guarantees. Asterisk people also stay stuck because they do not allow themselves to be beginners. Being a beginner feels vulnerable. It exposes ignorance. It challenges ego. So people wait until they feel prepared enough to avoid embarrassment. But mastery never begins with confidence. It begins with humility. Asterisk another reason stagnation persists is because people avoid stillness. Stillness forces self-reflection. It brings unresolved thoughts to the surface. Many people prefer noise, distraction, and constant stimulation, because silence reveals truths they are not ready to face. But without stillness, direction never becomes clear. Asterisk people remain stuck because they associate struggle with failure instead of growth. When effort feels heavy, they assume they are doing something wrong. In reality, struggle often means you are doing something meaningful. Progress stretches you before it strengthens you. Asterisk there is also the belief that change must feel inspiring. But inspiration is unreliable. Discipline is dependable. Those who wait for inspiration move occasionally. Those who build discipline move daily. Asterisk if you have listened this far, it means something inside you is paying attention. That attention matters. It means you are not asleep in your own life. And once awareness exists, change becomes possible. Asterisk you do not need to transform overnight. You only need to choose one small action that moves you forward, and then repeat it, quietly, consistently. Asterisk this is how people leave stuck lives behind. Not through sudden breakthroughs, but through steady commitment. Asterisk, and this is where your next chapter begins. Asterisk if this audiobook helped you see your patterns more clearly, take a moment to acknowledge that awareness. It is not small. It is the beginning of change. If you want more calm, honest audiobooks that help you think deeply and move intentionally, subscribe to Mind Over Pages. Like this video so it can reach others who may feel stuck but don't yet have the words for it. And if you want, leave a comment with the word aware as a reminder to yourself that you are choosing clarity over repetition. Protect your mind, choose your direction, and keep turning pages forward.